All right, this is a logo project. We're going to be creating a logo with multiple circles that we're going to apply some effects to get this look. Your project does not have to be the same color scheme, the same topic as mine, but of course, orange being my favorite color and then bulldogs being my favorite creatures, that's usually what I go to in a lot of these tutorial projects. If you didn't read the page, there are a couple things you need to do before starting this project. Number one, you need some sort of clip art image to use as part of this project. We do want to keep it simple, just plain black and white for this project. And then you need to think of some sort of quote that you're going to put around that image. So of course, me starting with the bulldog, I just kind of found a quote related to dogs and ended up doing this: when in doubt, hug the dog, with this clip art image. Now, when you go to select your clip art image, a couple things to point out. It should really be black and white, or I should say black and one other color. Like some of these are on kind of a grayish background, that would be fine. We're going to avoid anything that has watermarks on it. We're not monetizing these or anything, so that's not the problem. The problem is that it looks terrible. Could you take the time to get rid of it in Photoshop? You could, but it would really be a pain. I ended up settling on this image right here. It's just all black and white, so it's easy for me to do the effects that I want. Like this particular image would probably not be a great one because it's got multiple different colors. You can see it's a little grainy even when I open it up. But take some time to find that perfect clip art image that you're going to use as part of this project and come back to Photoshop when you're ready. All right, so assuming that you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to go File, New. Go ahead and click on the Print choice, only because that will put in a couple settings to automatically for us that we won't need to change. First thing we're going to do is name this project. So I'm going to call it Pasifumi. This is my Logo 2 project, and I'm going to call it version 5, V5. We're going to change this, of course, to pixels. And for this project, we're going to make it exactly 800 by 800 pixels. Everything else we should be able to leave the same: 300 pixels per inch, RGB color, white for the background is fine. Sometimes I do transparent, but it's fine. We can just go with white. And once we're happy, we're going to go ahead and click Create. Let's get our workspace set up correctly. Let's go to Window, hover over the word Workspace, make sure that Essentials is chosen. If it's not, just click it. If it is chosen, you didn't have to do that step right there. And then let's go to Reset Essentials. This will make sure that we're all looking at the same palettes and everything like that. Then we need a couple of what are called guides for this. They're going to help us place things correctly. So let's go into the View menu. First of all, make sure that Snap is checked. And under Snap 2, just make sure all of these are checked. That's the easiest thing. If some of them are not, you can either check them individually or you can click the word All. Under Show, you're going to see we want Smart Guides selected. Okay, if some of the others are selected, that's fine, but Smart Guides we definitely want selected. And then we need to add what are called guides here. So hover over the word guides and go to New Guide. And basically, these are going to be lines that we use as reference points. They're not actually part of the image. If you were to print it with the guides visible, the guides would not print out. Now, as far as the color for your guide, you can pick any color you want that you're going to be able to see. If you're going to do blue, don't choose blue as your guide color. Choose a color that's going to be pretty much not what you're going to use. So I'm not using magenta in this project since I know I'm going to be orange. So I'm going to choose that. And then we're going to do this twice. So I'm on vertical right now. That's fine. I can start with that one. I want to change the value in there to 50% because I want this vertical guide to be exactly halfway in the center point of the image. Let's repeat that. So I'm going to go to View, Guides, New Guide. And this one I'm going to do horizontal now. And again, 50%. Okay, so you can see they're crossing dead center right here. We're going to use that as the reference point. All right, now we're ready to get started. But before we get started, let's go ahead and save. So I'm going to go File, Save. I'm going to save it to the cloud because there's a good chance I won't finish in one period, so I can come back and finish it tomorrow. If you forgot to type in the name when we created it, make sure the name is in there now and just go ahead and click Save. And now we won't have to do that again. From now on, when we save, we'll just hit File, Save, and it will just save for us immediately. Okay? All right, so let's get started with the project here. So the first thing we're going to do is come over to our Shapes area, and we're going to choose the Ellipse tool as a shape. Do a long press if you don't see it. Okay, up here at the top, make sure that shape is selected. Later on, we're actually going to change it to path, but for right now, shape needs to be selected. For the fill color, choose your color that you want your circles to be. I'm going to do an orange color, if I can find one. That one works for me. So all these folders have different colors, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that color right there. And then for this first circle, we're going to do no stroke. So if you have a color in the stroke area here, click on it, and then choose this white square with the red slash through it. All right, now to add this circle, we're not actually going to draw this circle. We're just going to click once, and we want to click dead center in our image. So I'm putting my cursor right over where the lines cross. I'm going to click one time. When I do that, I'm going to be given a dialog box here where I can make the size of the circle. So I'm going to make this circle 800 by 800, so it's going to completely fill the screen. And then make sure that from center is checked and click OK. So you can see I've made this orange circle. If we look over in our layers palette, you're going to see that we have this ellipse one that has been created right here. All right, now working with shapes can get a little wonky. So one thing that you need to do, we're going to add another shape, but we need to make sure that we don't have any layers selected in our layers palette. If we added another shape right now with this ellipse one selected, it would add it right to this layer, and that is not what we want. We want this next shape to be on its own layer. So there's two ways to do this. Number one is to just click, if you have an empty area in your layers palette, you can just click there and you'll deselect all the layers. But eventually we're going to have a lot of layers here, so you don't really have an empty space. So the other way to do it is to come up to the select menu and you're going to choose deselect layers. Very important that when you look in the layers palette that no layers are selected. All right, once we've done that, again, we should still be on our ellipse tool. That's fine. We're going to keep the same color. We're not going to change the color. It is going to be a shape. And then for the stroke this time, we're going to do a white stroke. So choose a white color. And we're going to make it 10 pixels wide. Once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and click back in the center one more time. And again, we're going to get that dialog box. This time, though, we're going to make it 750 by 750. We're going to make sure that from center is checked and click OK. And what you should have now is a second circle, and this white area around the outside of it is what is the stroke. If you, for example, forgot to add a stroke, if there is no stroke, if you think the stroke should be a little bit larger, making sure that the ellipse tool 2 layer is highlighted, you can go ahead now and type in a different value for the stroke. So I just typed in 15 and hit enter and made it a little bit larger. So that's a personal preference. I like 10 though. I'm typing in 10 and hitting enter, and I'm pretty happy with that right there. Okay, we need to repeat this process one more time. So I'm going to go ahead and deselect the layers. So select, deselect layers. I'm going to keep the same color. I'm going to keep it as a shape. And the stroke this time, I'm going to keep it white, but I want this stroke to be smaller. So I'm going to type in a value of 7 for this next one. And then I'm going to click right in the center. Again, make sure that there's nothing highlighted in the layers palette. I'm going to click once. And this time we're going to make this circle 550 by 550. So basically we're making 3 circles that are sort of, whoops, I must have done something wrong there. So let me go to my history tool and back up one step and repeat this process. I must not have typed in a value correctly. I wasn't paying close enough attention. So let me click again. So 550 by 550. What did I do? By 55 probably. Click OK. There we go. So now this has come in with that. Now I do notice that my stroke here is at 10 pixels because I went back in my history and reset my stroke as well. So I'm just going to click on that 10, make it 7, and hit enter because we want this inner one to be a little bit thinner. All right, I'm happy with my placement here with these. So we aren't going to do anything with these ellipses for the rest of the project. But what we don't want to happen is them to be edited in any way. So we're going to lock them. So with a layer highlighted, click the little lock button. And you'll notice when you do that, that there's a lock here. Now these can always be unlocked if you need to for some reason. Just click on the lock, it'll go away. But this will keep us from accidentally moving anything or adding to them or anything of that nature. All right, so now we're going to create what's called a path so that we can put some text on the path, and the text will follow the curve. So we want the text to curve around, like in this project, inside of these little white strokes that we have on 2 of the circles. So in order to do that, we're going to still use our ellipse tool, but this time it's important that instead of shape, we choose path. So choose path right here. And we're going to do the same thing we did to create the circles here, but again, I have a layer selected. I want to deselect all my layers, so select, deselect. I'm going to click right in the center of the image. And this time we want the size of this path to be 550 by 550. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 600 by 600. We need, that's the previous circle. 600 by 600. We want it to be a little bit larger than that circle. So here is the path. Now the path, like these guides, is not something that would print if we actually printed this out. It is just there as a reference. If you go over to your layers palette, you should notice that you have layers, channels, and paths. If you click on paths, you're going to see what we've just created is called a work path. And so we're going to have the text basically walk this path. So let's add some text right now. So I'm going to click on my text tool. Once we're on our text tool, though, what we want to do is we want to come to the window menu and we want to select character. When we do that, we are going to add this character area here, which is going to allow us to easily edit some parts of our text. What we're going to want to do, though, in this character area is click on the hamburger menu, the 4 lines right there, and we're going to want to reset it so everything's back to its default settings. And we'll just tuck that away for a minute, although you can leave it out, it's fine. Okay, so on our type tool, our settings are going to be, I'm going to start with a font called Arial Bold. Now I could search for it or I could type it in, so I'm going to do Arial Bold. So I just started typing in the word Arial. You can choose any font you want for this that works. Just make sure the font fits when we end up putting the text in. 12 is going to be a good size to start with for this font, but again, you might end up adjusting that a little bit. Make sure the font is centered, and we are doing black font. If it's not black, just click on that little choice picker and select black. All right, so to start typing here, what we want to do is we want to hover over the path. Okay, you should see the path. If you don't see the path, make sure that you select it in the layers palette. But hover over the path and you should notice that the cursor gets this little curvy line on it. And you want to go right on the vertical guide, right in the center, and click one time. Now that's going to put in that Latin text right there, just so you can see the size of it. So you can see 12 is a pretty good size for this particular text. So I'm going to type in when in doubt. And I'm going to put in 3 ellipses or 3 periods right there because the quote's going to be continued. Okay, once I'm satisfied with that, what I could do if I think the text could be a little bit bigger, while I have the text layer selected, I can highlight the text and make it a little bit bigger. But this is also something I can do here in just a second. But when you're pretty happy with this, just go ahead and hit the check mark. And then let's look at that character palette right now and what we can do with it. Now I want to be sure that in my layers palette, I have the text layer selected. All right, can I be honest with you for a minute? I had to pause the recording for like an hour and come back, and I'm not 100% sure where I left off. But it looks like I just typed in when in doubt with my little 3 periods there. I hit the check mark to accept my changes, and now I'm on the when in doubt text layer. I have that highlighted. That's very important. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this character menu that we put in just a minute or two ago. Well, it was a minute or two ago for you. For me, it was like an hour, hour and a half. But anyways, so now with these selected, I can mess around with these areas here, these different variables here to change them. So for example, if I want my when in doubt text to be a little bit larger, I can actually change it from here. And I can do that by dragging right and left on that or typing in a value. So I can do like 18 for that and then hitting tab. You can also play around with a few other things here. This is called tracking with this letter V and A here, where I can make the letters either come squish together or move apart. Again, you can drag or type in values. I'm just going to leave it at 0 though. And there's several other things I could do as well, and you can play around with these to see which ones work for you. I think 18 is a little too big, but actually now that I look at my text, I don't think I want to use this text anymore. I think I want to change my text. So I can do that right in here again. As long as I'm on the text layer, I can do that here. So I'm going to change from Arial to this, which is the one that I like here. I got to remember. It's called A.R. Delaney, this one right here. I'm going to use this one right here. So I changed to this A.R. Delaney. I kind of like that a little bit better. But now I'm looking at it. I don't like my periods anymore. So what I can do is I can edit those. Now I can't edit them in the character one. I need to go back to this layer with my type tool. So if you don't still have your type tool selected, select that. Make sure that you're on the when in doubt layer or this text layer, and then just very carefully click somewhere within the text, and you should see your cursor jump in. So it jumped in one spot over, so I can use my arrow keys, and I'm just going to delete those. I don't want those anymore. The other thing I'm noticing is now that I've changed my font, this particular font doesn't have lowercase letters. They're all capital, so my W now is too big. So I'm just going to click over here and delete that and just type in that W right there. I think that looks very good. And I'm happy with that, so I'm going to hit the check mark. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the bottom area. I want to make sure, though, that my work path is selected. So go to your path area and select the work path. Path is selected. I'm going to make sure that I'm on my horizontal type tool. And then I'm going to hover over the very center right on that path that you can see on your screen and click one time again. When I do that, it's going to put text around. It's going to be the new text that I changed it to. And without deselecting it, I'm just going to type in the rest of my quote, which is hug a dog. And I just realized that I did the H as capital, so I'm going to use my arrow key to go back and delete that. Nope. Oh, I went too far. There we go. It's upside down. Okay. So what I want to do now, obviously I don't want my text to be upside down. What I'm going to do is, over in my layers palette, I'm going to select the path selection tool, this black arrow right here. And then just hover over the text and click and drag up. And you'll notice that it has flipped the text up like that. So now it's facing the right way and readable. But you'll notice it's covering up the area there that we don't want to cover up, that white circle right there. So there's a couple things I could do here. I could go to my move tool and just move it down, but let me show you something else you could do as well. So in your layers palette, make sure that the hug a dog layer, in my case, or your text layer that's the bottom, is selected. Let's bring out, I'm going to get my history tool out of the way. Let's bring out the character area, and this bottom left character area right here, which is called, I believe it's called the baseline shift. I'm going to go ahead and you can drag this right and left again, and you'll notice it will move it up and down. So I'm going to just put this value for my particular text. The value of -10 works. That moved it down so it's between the two letters. I could do the same thing with the top text by selecting that, and if I'm like it needs to move up or down, so I can make it like -5 and see what that does and hit enter or tab. Now that's no good for me. So my text at the top is good with a value of 0. So I'm just going to leave it like that. All right, I'm very happy with my text. So that looks great. I'm happy with that. What I can do now is I can go in and I can delete this work path. So I can just drag it to the trash and have it go away so it doesn't interfere with what I'm trying to work on anymore. All right, next we're going to bring in that image that you've downloaded. So we're going to do that with Place Embedded. So I'm going to do File, Place Embedded. I'm going to go to my computer and find that image and select Place. When you bring it in, you can resize it. When you do Place Embedded, the first thing it asks you to do is to, or first thing it allows you to do is resize the image a little bit. So I'm just going to resize it and center it up so that it's right in the center of the image, and then hit enter. So I want to get rid of this white, all the white area on this particular image. And so the easiest way to do that for this, if you picked an image that is black and white or black and another color, is let's use our magic wand. So that is over in the selection area. It's the fourth one down. You probably don't see it. So if you do a long press and select the magic wand, up here at the top, I want you to be sure that contiguous is unchecked. Do not have that checked. What that will do is you'll notice there's white inside the bulldog and white outside the bulldog. If contiguous is checked, when you select a color, it will select all of the color until it runs into an obstacle, and then it will stop selecting that color. So what would happen is if I check contiguous right now and click, it's only selected the white area that's outside of it. Notice it hasn't selected anything inside. Okay, so we're going to uncheck contiguous there. But I'm going to do Control D to deselect. One thing we have to do before we'll be allowed to do this is we need to rasterize this layer that we just brought in. So go over to that layer and right click on it and select rasterize layer. This will allow us to directly edit it. So now I'm going to come back to my magic wand tool. I'm going to make sure that contiguous is unchecked and I'm going to click. And now it has selected all of the white in the entire image. So I'm just going to hit the delete key on my keyboard to get rid of that. And then I'm going to do Control D to deselect. You might notice, depending on your image, like on my image here, I do have a couple of little white specks that did not get picked up. So all I'm going to do, make sure I'm on the Bulldog clip art one. I'm going to go to my eraser, tool, and just make sure that the cursor size is, I wouldn't want an eraser tool that was this big because then I would start erasing some of the black. So I need it to be really small in my case, and I'm just going to get rid of some of the more obvious little pieces of white or gray that did not quite get picked up. But overall, this is going to be such a small part of the image that you're really not even going to see it. But I might just click out a couple more things there. All right, so now I'm going to zoom back out, Control minus, and that looks just fine the way that it is. Okay, let's save right now. File save. It's not asking us where to save it again because we've already saved it, so we are in good shape. All right, so now if you need to adjust the size a little bit, let's say now you realize once you deleted everything, it should be bigger or smaller. As long as you're on the layer where the clip art is, you could use your transform tool, Control T, and you could resize and shift around as needed, even rotate a little bit if you wanted to. It's a little too big. I'm going to resize it. Again, I'm kind of using the guides to make sure that it's basically centered up the way I want it. And then I will hit enter or click the check mark. I'll click the check mark this time to do that. All right, last but not least, we're going to put a little bit of artwork in the margins over here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to go to Window and find Shapes. Click that. And that's going to bring out the Shapes palette. And I'm just going to make a quick change here so you see what I see. So when you have the Shapes palette over here, you should have 4 default choices: leaf trees, wild animals, boats, and flowers. We're going to add to this. So click the little hamburger menu and choose Legacy Shapes and More. And that's going to add the folder that I just deleted so you can see what that looked like. And then this folder has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shapes, different categories. Feel free to take a look around in it. And you add these shapes just like any other shape. So I already know, I believe it's in the animal section, that I'm going to use the dog paw as my shape. So I'm just going to click on that. I'm going to go to my shape tool and I'm going to custom shape. So notice I had the dog paw chosen up here. If you don't, just click it again. You should see that it's chosen. So for the shape this time, what I want to do is I want to go up here and change it back from path to shape now. I'm going to make my fill color black. If you don't see black, just click on grayscale and select it. I don't want to stroke around this, so I'm going to click on the stroke area and click the white box with the red slash. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start to drag out, just like I did for the circle. Look, I might do for a circle or other shape. We didn't actually do that in this project, but I'm going to go ahead and start dragging. I'm going to hold my shift key down as I drag. And I'm just going to drag it out till the size looks appropriate for my image. And then when I let go, it should fill it in with black. I can then grab my move tool and move this around a little bit. Okay, that looks great. Again, I'm trying to center it here horizontally. Now, with that dog print layer selected, yours will say something else if you don't use the dog print. I'm going to hold my Alt key down, and I'm going to grab this and just move it over. And I'm making a copy of it, basically. So you can see I have a dog print 1 copy over here right now. I'm going to undo that in my history just to show you something very quickly. So I'm going to go back to where I did the custom shape. So again, you hold the Alt key down, and notice how my cursor has changed to a little black and white arrow. That lets me know that I'm about to make a duplicate of whatever I click on and drag. So that's a visual cue of it. So again, I can move this around. You should notice that as I move it, you can see how the smart guides are trying to show me when it's aligned with the one that's across from it. It assumes that's what I want to do. I'm just going to get these where I want them to go. And I think that looks great. All right, I'm going to go to View, Guides, and I'm going to say Clear Guides. And now the guides are gone. And again, they wouldn't have printed anyways. And here is my completed logo. So let's do one more save, just a general save that's going to save to the cloud. All right, so if this is something you want printed on a t-shirt or a sticker, you're going to, or to turn it in, actually you can turn this in the same way no matter what. So it's going to be File, Save a Copy. It's going to go on your computer, and you're going to turn this into a JPEG or a PNG. Either one would work for this project for either just to turn it in or get it printed on t-shirt or sticker. You'll just talk to me about what you want and click Save. And there you go. There's your completed project. All right, I can't wait to see what you guys have come up with. I look forward to all the cool stuff.